As British taxpayers struggle to afford groceries, a massive uncontrolled leak at the Home Office is draining over £1.6 billion. We introduce the defendants of today's case, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman and former Immigration Minister Mr. Robert Jenrick. Today they present themselves as fierce whistleblowers protecting our borders, but during their tenure they were the architects of the exact system they now condemn. On their watch, a single asylum accommodation contract blew a staggering £1.6 billion hole in the public purse. Did these ministers commit an act of gross incompetence, or was this a deliberate, murky misuse of taxpayer money? When the government hands out billion-pound contracts, it usually requires rigorous public competition. That process exists to protect your money. Yet Corporate Travel Management, or CTM, secured a £1.6 billion deal without going through that standard competitive process. This diagram shows how, instead of the main procurement highway, they used the Crown Commercial Service framework, a side channel for routine government travel. Deep within that framework was an obscure clause for boat chartering. They used that loophole to procure massive offshore accommodation. Internal records suggest the logic behind using this specific manoeuvre was to explicitly minimise visibility of the deal. The politicians, loudly promising strict accountability, used a bureaucratic backdoor to hide a £1 billion transaction from public scrutiny. For years, the public was fed a diet of harsh political rhetoric about creating a hostile environment for asylum seekers. But look at the reality of the Bibby Stockholm barge, a vessel procured under their authority. Parliamentarians exposed the redacted statement of requirements for this contract. It legally mandated 24/7 high-speed Wi-Fi, fully funded mobile phones and varied menus with late-night snacks. It went further. The contract required organised recreational activities and a professional laundry service with a strict 48-hour turnaround, explicitly forbidding residents from washing their own clothes. While campaigning on a tough-on-migrants platform, these ministers legally guaranteed and funded a gold-plated hotel service entirely at the taxpayer's expense. £80 million of taxpayer money simply vanished into CTM's accounts after a systemic failure in corporate oversight. This illustrates the core accounting failure. When travel services were cancelled, airlines and vendors issued refunds back to the central booking agent, CTM. Instead of returning these refunds to the Home Office, CTM swallowed the cash, reclassifying the public's money as their corporate revenue. Once the missing millions were discovered, the corporate fallout was immediate. Trading of CTM stock was suspended. KPMG launched a frantic forensic audit and their European CEO was fired. The government bypassed standard rules to hand £1.6 billion to a company whose internal controls were so weak they quietly absorbed £80 million of public money for years without a single red flag. Today, the Home Office is scrambling to launch an urgent investigation to claw back the money, while parliamentarian committees describe the entire system as a failure. Meanwhile, the architects of this disaster, Braverman and Jenrick, have utterly jumped ship. They've aligned themselves with Reform UK, campaigning as the only true patriots who can fix government waste. The very people who signed off on a £1.6 billion black hole are now using the resulting public anger to fuel their own political comebacks. We have a backdoor procurement loophole, a hypocritical VIP contract, and £80 million of missing public funds. Through all of this, there's a total lack of accountability. The taxpayer is left holding the bag. The corporation claims to be a victim of bad accounting, and the politicians get to walk away clean. Now you have to decide, was this a tragedy of gross incompetence or a deliberate, calculated act of negligence?
Thanks for watching the Daily Bollocks. Like, subscribe and comment. See you next time.